Perfect. Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mariana Guevara. I am the International Trade Program Specialist for the State of California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. Let me go ahead and open up the chat and questions. So if I see some questions pop up, I can try my best to answer them. As far as the presentation today, I will be going over the overview of the STEP program, walking through the application portal, and then leaving some open time for a live Q&A. In this section, hopefully you can either raise your hand to unmute yourself, or I can unmute yourself, and we can talk through your questions. But thank you all for joining me today. I'll go ahead and get started. This webinar is being recorded. So the STEP program is funded in part by the Small Business Administration. The California State Trade Expansion Program seeks to increase the number of eligible small business exporters, as well as to increase the volume of goods and services that they export. The STEP program offers support to small businesses through a series of efforts centered around the organization of STEP events, which I'll go into more detail, and the STEP Export Voucher Program. For the first time ever, the California State Trade Expansion Program will be fully overseen and administered by GO-Biz, the International Affairs and Trade team. We don't have any implementation partners, so we ask that if you have any questions regarding STEP or your eligibility, you reach out to us. For STEP qualifications, here are some of the basic qualifications for the program. First is that you must be organized as a for-profit enterprise, be organized and registered and operating in the United States, registered to do business and in good standing in the state of California. This means that if you're a corporation or LLC, typo there, must have an active status with the Secretary of State. If you're not sure of your active status, my recommendation is that you go to this website, bizfileonline.sos.ca.gov, and search the name of your business. This will give you your Secretary of State entity number, which will be used later on in the portal, and will let you know if you have an active status. If you do not have an active status, our recommendation is that you visit our FAQ page, where we give you a link where you can move forward to activate your status. So there's resources for that here. But again, this is an eligibility requirement. If you are a sole proprietor, we ask that at the time of your application, you submit proof regarding your registration of status, either with the city or county. The company must satisfy the SBA Small Business Eligibility Standards. These are determined by the NAICS code. So if you're not sure, our first ask for you is that you determine the NAICS, the 6-digit NAICS code that best determines your company, and you provide that at the time of your application. On our end, we're going to measure your application to see if you do meet their small business size. So let me go ahead and click this just to have a quick look. Okay, so NAICS code, you would provide us with a 6-digit number, and as you can see, the small business size is determined by NAICS code and differs accordingly. So it is up to you to provide us the most accurate NAICS code. Okay. Is exporting goods or services of U.S. origin that have at least 51% U.S. content. We use the U.S. commercial service as definition of 51% U.S. content. If you have questions regarding if you meet that, again, another resource is going to be on our website. You go to program details, click at least a 51% U.S. content, and it will give you the formula. If you have any questions regarding your 51% content or you're not sure, the U.S. Commercial Service is going to be a great guide for you. and must be in business for at least 1 year at the time of the STEP funded export activity takes place. So those are right off the bat, just the quantifiable STEP qualifications. An additional qualification that is not on here is that the business must have enough resources to partake in international trade shows. So this shouldn't just be hopes to get funding. This should be that you have a plan in place and you're able to bear the costs associated with trade. So STEP events, these are going to be pre-selected export promotion activities designed to connect California exporters to emerging global markets. STEP eligible companies can apply to participate at a reduced cost. Now, what is interesting for this is that the funds are set aside from the export voucher, meaning you can apply to both STEP events application and STEP export voucher. The funding for the STEP events will not take away from the funding that you're eligible for on the export voucher side, and they're less competitive because the funding is already set aside. So our recommendation is that you're always taking a look at our STEP website page and are constantly or subscribe to our newsletter so you can be informed. So some of our upcoming pre-selected STEP events are the CEO program at Medica, the China Clean Beauty Product Showcase and Seminar, Trade Winds, Indo Defense, that one's already on our website, Arab Health, that one is, we have our flyer ready to be posted, Avalon Australia, Japan Clean Energy Trade Mission World Smart Energy Week, Info Security, and Paris Air Show. Again, applying for these events and being funded or participating at reduced fund does not take away from the funding on the export voucher side. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the export voucher, so let's dive into it. Our export voucher was formerly known as ICEP, or the Individual Company Export Promotion. This is where the company themselves propose the activities that they want to participate in. So for example, if you're interested in a trade show, but do not see it listed on the STEP events, you would propose that trade show here, or various activities, which we'll dive into next. So the STEP export voucher applicants can receive a maximum reimbursement up to $10,000 USD to offset 75% of approved expenses, and this is for the federal funding period. So regarding the 75%, so if a company pays $10,000 for an international trade show, we would reimburse $7,500. If a company would pay $950 for a gold key service, we would reimburse 75% of that, being $712.50. So that's what it means to offset 75% of the approved expenses. Now, something to note, the application is going to be very competitive. Not everyone will be awarded, and they are awarded. There's no guarantee that you're going to be awarded up to the $10,000 amount, just because we do want to make sure that we can spread the amount of funding to as many companies as possible. So that is something to keep in mind. So make sure you get your applications in early and that you have good applications. So we'll go through the strength of applications through this presentation. Recommendations. So the export voucher, your application must be submitted in advance of the planned activity. We recommend at least 15 days, just because we do take time to go through the number of applications, provide feedback if we need any edits, and then meet as a team to review them and choose the amount of funding. So again, you want to get those applications in and early. Applications for retroactive activities will not be considered. The latest application period information is going to be always live on our website at export.business.ca.gov/program details. Now let's talk about the export application period. So currently we are in round 1, and this is for activities that take place between October 1st through December 31st. So if you have activities that are occurring between those time frames, you should apply now. If you have activities that are going to take place between January and March, go ahead and wait until November 30th. If you apply for activities for round 2 during round 1, we're going to go ahead and reject you. We'll say it nicely, but we'll let you know that you will have to wait until round 2. So do keep those dates in mind. Please do note that we anticipate a high volume of applications during round 1 and round 2. Depending on if funding is available or the volume of applications received, application periods may be extended. So right now we're foreseeing just round 1 and round 2. But if funding does become available, we would open a round 3 for activities at a later time. But again, right, we anticipate only round 1 and round 2 for the time being. Allowable expenses. So this is what you can use the export voucher on. So first things, it's going to be things like the international trade show or trade mission. This will be booth registration, booth display, directory listing, all those things. Things that will not be eligible will be travel, lodging, meals. Those will not be eligible costs, but on the international trade show, you can request up to 10,000. Domestic trade shows or trade missions, these are for activities for events that have a clear international presence. Please note that we are prioritizing those international trade shows or trade missions at this time, but we do reimburse for domestic events as well. U.S. commercial service products. So if you're not familiar with the U.S. commercial service, they're a great federal partner and provide lots of resources. Their activities and events are, as a trusted partner, are pretty much a green light. So go ahead and propose those activities. Website globalization and e-commerce, that is capped at $5,000 for the whole federal, for the whole grant year. But this is going to be anything for e-commerce for Alibaba, Amazon Canada, translating your website into another language, website localization, all those great things. Compliance testing, sample shipping. Sample shipping is going to be if you are shipping a product to a potential distributor or buyer as a sample, it has to be clear that this is more as a sample for potential sales contract rather than a direct sales, because we want to make sure that we are reimbursing for export promotion activities rather than business operations. So it must be clear when it comes to your application that this is a sample shipment. Another one is going to be intellectual property. So if that means registering your product in China and you have to pay lawyer fees, those would be a reimbursable cost. International marketing material. A lot of products are going to be customer facing. So if you do social media in, say, China, you're paying for influencers to target a specific country that is very clearly outside of the United States. Those would be reimbursable cost. Translating your brochures into another language would also be considered. If you have questions as far as what activities you are doing and where they fall into, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I can try to help and categorize that. One thing to note is that printing costs, as well as the lodging, travel, meals, that's not going to be an allowable expense. The printing cost is not allowed under SBA's guidelines. So printing, unfortunately, would not be covered. Export research tool. So this is going to be any market research to try to get some international leads. That would be also an allowable expense. And then lastly, the XM insurance policy premiums. So if you're currently working with XM and have a policy premium, we would be able to reimburse for the fees. Oh, I skipped through a lot. Okay, just some quick examples of the U.S. commercial services. They provide the customer's market research, initial market check, international partners search, and gold key services. These are going to be great resources for companies small and large. But again, this is focused on small businesses, but we do recommend these services from the U.S. commercial services. The STEP application timeline. So the timeline for this is that a company submits an application at our portal, step.business.ca.gov. The applications are reviewed in about a 14-day period timeline and selected for funding. We then notify the company that they've been pre-approved, and we have to collect documents to send them up as vendors from the state of California. So the state of California, we are able to reimburse you through a physical check, and as such, we have to set you up as a vendor within our accounting system. So that takes about 10 days. And then the company executes the activities that they have been approved for in their application. The company then submits invoice, proof of payment, and proof of activity within 14 days of completing the activities. And then GO-Biz reviews and approves the final submission and processes reimbursements for payments. And the company can expect to receive a physical check within 45 to 60 days. So that's the approximate timeline. Okay, I will go ahead and jump into the STEP portal application. So first things first, the STEP grant program application must be submitted online via the online portal at step.business.ca.gov. Applicants must first create an account by selecting Create an Account on the login screen as shown below. The user will then be prompted to create an account and will be asked to enter their name, title, company name, phone numbers, and email address. The user must also check the human verification in order to complete the registration process. For security reasons, GO-Biz requires an access key to be provided each time an applicant logs into their account. Each time the user wishes to log into their account, they must enter their email address in the email field at staff.business.gov and click on the email key button. A 6-digit access key will then be emailed to the applicant's email address from noreply@gobiz.ca.gov. Okay. Creating an application. So STEP event applications, again, are going to be for pre-selected events that GO-Biz has set aside funding for eligible businesses to participate in. Businesses are firstly encouraged to view the list of events at export.business.ca/step.events. The export voucher is going to be a competitive application through which eligible businesses can propose their own export promotion activities. So you will select the application and then be taken to the eligibility page. The applicant will be asked to confirm that the business meets the program eligibility criteria. Detailed information about the criteria are going to be on page 4 of our program guidelines, but the applicant must answer yes in order to move forward. Next, the company must indicate if they received past funding. Having received past funding will not make you ineligible. If you're unsure whether or when you have received STEP funding in the past, please contact us. Once the application is created, the application summary screen will display all required application sections. The sections will vary based on whether the user submitted a STEP event or STEP export voucher application. This is going to be an example on their screen of the export voucher application. So as you see here, it says proposed activities. On the event application, it would say event selection. As questions are answered within each section, the applicant must click Submit Section and Return at the bottom of the page to save their progress. This action will update the application summary page to show that the section is either in progress or complete. So the first section, the contact. So this is going to be very straightforward. Primary contact must be designated and entered to complete this section. The primary contact will be the main point of contact that GO-Biz will communicate with during the application and evaluation period. Please ensure that the email address provided for the primary contact is regularly monitored. So this is going to be the person that we notify the status. And so we will notify you of the status via email. So we again want you to make sure that you're checking your email constantly. Authorized contacts. Contacts added to this section are only used for communication purposes. This does not grant access to the online application. To authorize a contact access to the online application, please select application options at the bottom of the application screen and then select application users. Please note that all new application users must create their own account prior to this action. So we actually had it recently where a company had submitted an application. I went back to them to ask for edits, hadn't heard back. Turns out that the person that submitted the application is no longer at the company. So what needs to happen now is that they must create another user, and then they would notify me that they need access to the application and I need to give them access. But if you know, maybe someone's going on vacation, go ahead and add another authorized user to the application in any type of emergency or just for backup. And again, if you have questions on adding another user to your application, feel free to reach out. Next section, business. So in this section, the applicant must provide general information regarding the applicant's business. For example, legal business name, doing business as. So if you're a sole proprietor and you have a fictitious business name or a DBA, you would enter that here. Date of company established, enter the year that the business was established. Website, we ask that you enter your website because we do take a look at it. Description of products and services, number of employees. So this is calculated. This is the average number of people employed for each pay period over the last 12 calendar months. Any person on the payroll must be included as one employee, regardless of hours worked or temporary status. And if you have any questions on that, we have the SBA definition for that. Mailing address, this is going to be a mailing address located in California, and payment address if it differs from the mailing address. Legal entity of the business, so if you're a corporation or LLC, you would select that. And as mentioned earlier, you would have to have an active status with the Secretary of State and provide us the entity number from the Secretary of State, which you can find on their website. If you're a sole proprietor, you would just click sole proprietor and move forward. Okay, NAICS code. So a business should determine the appropriate 6-digit NAICS code by classifying the product or service according to the code that best describes its principal purpose. Next is annual receipts. So this is going to be the total income plus the cost of goods sold. These numbers can normally be found on the business's IRS tax return forms. We don't ask for you to provide us the annual receipt to the digit. It's just a drop down, so you can say between 0 to 500,000 or 600,000 to 1 million. So just the general estimate of your annual receipts. Export readiness assessment. So the export readiness assessment is just really 5 questions. So in this section, we want to see your involvement and knowledge in exporting. We want to see that this is not just a stab at a shot in the dark in order to get money. This is more calculated reason why you're doing these export promotion activities. So the questions that we ask are to describe the current challenges faced in exporting, list the foreign markets you're interested in exporting to, what's the demand for your products and or services in the foreign markets you intend to pursue, what is your competitive advantage in the market, describe the market entry plan strategy and goals, describe the business's efforts in foreign sales development. And then here it says some examples. So do you have global promotional activities? Do you have product marketing communications, dedicated staff? So we want to see that there's a lot of thought put into these applications, that, you know, there's history with wanting to export or exporting in the past, and this is not just a shot in the dark. Okay, so on the event application, your screen is going to look a little bit different because you would have an event selection. This is going to be pretty straightforward. You would just, on the drop down, go ahead and select the event that you are interested in. Again, very straightforward. We will have the available step events that are available, a quick little blurb about them, and then the link to find out more. Okay, on the export voucher side, it's a little bit more than that. So you would have the activity category. You would select the activity that best matches the export promotion activity that you are proposing. We welcome you to review the category details by visiting pages 7 and 8 of the program guidelines. So just very quickly, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the program guidelines here so you can see what I'm talking about. On our website, under program details, we have a section called Business Resources. Here we have STEP program guidelines, the application process guide, export voucher application, and then a STEP program training video, which is coming soon. On the STEP program guidelines, we have detailed information about the allowable expenses. So international trade shows, domestic trade shows or missions, etc. What is an eligible cost, and then what is not an eligible cost. So we welcome you to take a look at our guidelines prior to starting your application. Estimated start date, enter the activity start date. Estimated completion date, enter the activity completion date within the round time frame. So again, because we are currently in round 1, accepting activities between October through December 31st, we would not be able to reimburse or accept any activities happening in this application after December 31st. Estimated expenses. So this is where it gets tricky. So here on the estimated expenses is where you want to break down the expenses as if they were itemized on the invoice. So I don't know if you can see here, but here, if you were doing an international trade show, we want to see the breakdown of what the cost would look like. So it's going to be the booth, it's going to be the booth design, it's going to be for materials, directory listing, all the costs, all the eligible costs associated with the trade show specifically, like if it was just all going to be on an invoice. The requested funds are then going to be 75% of the estimated expenses up to the category amount. And then I will be running through a couple examples shortly. Export activity name and details. Provide a 2 to 4 sentence summary of the proposed activity for the category selected, along with a brief overview of how funds will be used. Business growth and export strategy. Explain how the activity will support the business's growth and export strategy. Country or countries targeted. Explain which countries the activity will target and how. Website link. Copy and paste the URL for the activity website if applicable. So this is going to be for the third party conducting the activity or service. So if it's going to be an international trade show, you would enter the event link here. If you are, say, doing website globalization, you would enter the URL of the company that you are working with to do the website globalization. We do not reimburse for company and staff time for these activities. So if you hire a marketing person to do these, it would not count. It would have to be a third party. So a consultant or general party. Export promotion assistance. Enter the name of the organization or organizations providing assistance to implement the activity and explain their role. So if you are doing a U.S. commercial service product, which U.S. commercial service office, which trade specialist. If you're working with Simone of SBDC, let us know, because she is a great resource. And sometimes if we can't reach out to you or we haven't heard from you, we will reach out to her. So let us know if you're working with anybody else regarding this activity that you are proposing. And then anticipated and intended outcomes. This is where you enter the qualitative outcomes that are expected as a result of the proposed export activity. And then lastly, 12-month sales forecast, 12-month jobs created forecast, and 12 months job retained forecast. I'm going to go ahead and just show a quick sample of proposed activities. Let's see if I can get them up in screen. Okay, so this is just a sample application that I have here. As you can see, this is the export voucher application. We have completed all 4 sections of contact information, business information. This is what it looks like here. Export readiness assessment. So very detailed information. We are interested in expanding to China because X, Y, and Z. According to research, our product is very competitive. Our market plan consists of X, Y, and Z, potential high export sales, just lots of details in the application. Proposed activities. Now, when it comes to the activities, we want to make sure that they are broken down by category, and I'll go ahead and show that here. So for the first activity that is being proposed is that at the, what is it called? China International Agricultural Machinery Exhibition. We have the estimated start date and estimated completion date that are occurring between the round 1. The trade show, the detailed breakdown of the estimated expenses. So it's going to be the trade show booth fee, the booth design, components and material, total being $8,500. The requested funds are going to be 75% of the estimated eligible expense, so $6,375. Describe the activity name and details. So this is going to be the name of the event. This is where it's going to be taking place, and these are the dates. A little brief description of the event. It's an international event with high reputation, held annually. Chinese and foreign exhibitors have already signed up, so great detail. Explain how this activity will support the business's growth and export strategy. A perfect opportunity to network, discover clients, and generate new leads. Trade show serves specialist marketing tool. Okay, what country or countries does this export activity target? This is all focused on China because it will have the China Agriculture Machinery Distribution Association. It will have this, this, and this. The URL of the event for this particular category. And then, are you working with any other organizations for this activity? So in this instance, this company is working with the California Manufacturing Technology Association because they will have a California Manufacturing Pavilion. So that's just a quick example. We anticipate this activity will result in entering a new market, creating publicity and awareness for company in the Asian region. The sales forecast, it's not outlandish forecast. It's not like 500 million. It's something that's realistic within a 12-month time frame. And then 12 months jobs created and 12 months jobs retained are realistic for this type of activity. Now, a new activity being sample shipping fees. So this is going to be shipping machinery to exhibit at the CIME trade show. So even though this is still related to the first activity, because it's going to fall under another category, it needs to have its own activity section. So again, estimated start date and estimated completion date within the rounds. The detailed breakdown of the estimated expense. So they're going, for this one, they're going to be applying for an ATA carnet fee. They're going to be transporting their heavy equipment that costs $6,000, total being $6,480, and the requested funds is 75% of that. Describe the export activity in name details, shipping machinery to exhibit at the trade show. Explain how this activity will support the business's growth and export strategy. generate interest, and display products to bring them to the trade show. The country that this activity will target, who will this company be utilizing to complete these activities. So here's the link to the ATA CarNet, and then here is the link for the company that will be doing the shipping. Okay, and then the last one here, just as an example, activity takes place within the round time frame. The broken down, so if you're only doing one gold key, let us know to which market. Requested funds, again, 75%. So gold key service, matchmaking with up to 5 interested partners in a foreign market, targeting Chinese distributors, sales representatives. And then, of course, you would be working with the trade.gov for the URL, and then let us know. So for example, this company, they'll be working with George to start of the Sacramento U.S. Commercial Service Office for this gold key. And then as far as, so I did see the question that said, where can we find the example application? So this sample application, it's not there as it looks here, but it does look slightly different. So let's go ahead and switch over. So as I mentioned earlier, oh, not the test one, sorry guys, CaliforniaExport.org. There we go. Under program details, we have the business resources. So briefly, I showed the SEP program guidelines, which goes into detail of eligibility, allowable expenses. Here we have the application process guide, which is the information that I went over today. So creating a profile, creating an application, navigating the application, detailed for each section. That's going to be a great resource, especially just having side to side while you go through the application, as it has definitions and links to find out if you have any questions. And then the export voucher application sample. So Miguel, I saw that you asked for a sample application. This just looks slightly different as it's in a PDF version. But as you can see, when it has the proposed activities, it's going to show you the different detail that we would want to see in the application. So we have an activity example for an international trade show, sample shipping, which we went over, U.S. commercial service products, website globalization. So if you are proposing website globalization, you can take a look at this example. Intellectual property, and I believe that's it. So companies can propose up to 6 activities within their applications. Okay. We're about to wrap up and then open it up to questions. So just some brief recommendation when it comes to the export voucher application. We ask that you propose each activity by category separately. Do not lump activities together. We cannot consider activities outside of the round 1 time frame. So making sure that it's between October 1st and December 31st. On the question, list the estimated expenses. Break down the cost of the specific activity you're proposing. General or vague answers will not be accepted. Cannot speak. Accepted. Remove any expenses listed as ineligible according to the program guidelines. So don't just tell us international trade show. Tell us booth space of 14 by 14, design build out, listing on their online website for the trade show. Like, tell us the detail. We want to see that there's a lot of thought behind this application and this activity, and based on the amount of detail you're informing us, it looks like it's going to happen. So again, we want to see as much detail as possible. Where was I? For the requested funds, the amount requested should equal up to 75% of the estimated expense or up to the activity category limit, whichever is lower. Activity questions. So for the activity questions, this section should answer the who, what, where, when, how, and why the proposed activities. Answers should demonstrate that the company has a plan in action and will be able to execute it within the proposed time frame. So if you propose everything under the umbrella to be completed by December 31st, that's very hopeful, and we would like that, but is it realistic? So something to keep in mind. We do take those things into consideration. The sales forecast should be a sensible number as a direct result of the activity you're proposing. Okay, and I do see some questions coming up, so I will be answering those shortly. About to wrap up this portion. Some step tips. So make sure to bookmark the export.business.ca.gov and frequent the site for the latest updates. Review all the business resources if you can before beginning your application, because there's great detail in all of them. I put them together, so if you do have any information that you didn't see in the resources guides, but you want to see, let me know. Happy to include it. Also very important, if initial plans change, has there been delays? Has the event been canceled? Communicate that with us so we can see what we can do about it. Hopefully we can try to pivot into another activity, but if failure to communicate that with us and we just want to try and stay atop of it. We have the California Program Business Resources. Again, we highly encourage you to check them out. The program guidelines, the application portal guide, the export voucher application, and that is all. Okay, so time for some questions. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording for this webinar here, and then we will resume shortly with questions. So how do I do that? Give me 1 second. And